You do not get stuff out of the way that you have to. Instead, you do the things you enjoy, which then empower you to then do the next cool thing. There's plenty of energy for that. And the thing I noticed first is when someone clears their head with their vision, their energy instantly shifts because they start seeing it's possible.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another great conversation around healthcare, trust, and kind of building your perfect practice. I'm Dr. Josh Satterlee, joined today by Dr. Michelle Wendling. Michelle, how are you?
I'm awesome, Josh. How are you?
Yeah, you're always bright, cheery, and awesome. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Michelle, you are a consultant, or I don't know what you call it, coach, consultant, work with a lot of different healthcare providers to kind of remind them of, hey, remember what you said you were going to do? Let's do that. Yeah. But I would love to talk about that in the idea for our listeners of what you've seen at that end, but how can the people listening today build their perfect practice? And perfect doesn't have to be, I'm making $1 million. Perfect doesn't have to be, I'm working 1 day a week, whatever they see as perfect. But how would you feel about having a conversation about that?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So you've talked to probably hundreds of providers at this point that are maybe not lined up with where they thought they'd be lined up. Like we talked before we started recording, like the idea of what did you want to do in practice? Oh, I want to treat athletes. Who are you treating now? Well, anybody that has Blue Cross Blue Shield because it pays well, right? And who's the Blue Cross Blue Shield company in your area? Oh, well, it's this accounting firm, and it's like, okay, well, we're way off base. But what are some of the common things you see when people, get into it and have lost their sight of what was perfect and what they wanted to build?
Well, I think a lot of people get pigeonholed in, and and some of it starts with the messaging from schools. Some of it starts with the messaging from their colleagues or whatever organizations that they are part of. So first thing I always recommend is to make sure you're surrounded by people who believe in you and who support your dreams and your vision. They don't squash that and make it really small and make it not possible. But I think the biggest piece is that we get stuck in the quote obligation box, which is the opposite of all of the expansion and all the dreams and all of the vision. And so when you're like, well, I have to make money, there's my obligation. Okay. And I think a lot of people can't even see the connection between making money and doing the thing that they truly love. They just don't see that that's even possible. And if they don't have a community and support system around them to say, you've got this, keep going, keep heading in the right direction, I think they get pigeonholed into, I just talked to a practitioner the other day and she's like, I feel pigeonholed into chiropractic. And it's not that I don't love chiropractic, but I'm tired of talking about pain. And I was like, well, is there anything else chiropractic helps with?
Yeah.
And of course she was like, well, yeah. And I was like, so why are you talking about the pain if that's not your favorite? Yeah. So. Yeah. But I think that's the thing is they fall into this hole of feeling like they have to talk about pain. And to be honest, most patients, that's not even why they came in the first place. But once you start talking about it, then they start talking about it.
Well, that's the definition of like when we say over medicalization, right? Is like if I shoot an x-ray and I'm like, what's this little gray dot here, Michelle? And you're like, I don't know. And I point at it and go, oh, anybody in your family ever died? You're like, well, yeah, my grandfather and his dad, actually, they're dead now that I think about it. And there's generations of dead people in my family. They just nod my head. I go, oh, interesting. Yeah. And I tap on the gray dot. Now, whatever I say now, you'll believe it's like, oh, you need a CT, you need a blood test, you need this, you need that. And really, it could be, you don't need, like, only because you pointed at the gray dot did this whole cascade of events happen. Same thing with if you start talking pain, then pain becomes the measuring stick, right?
The whole conversation. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, your intake forms are going to talk about pain. All the things are going to talk about pain. So by the time the doctor even walks in the door, the patient thinks it's about pain. The first phone call with the front desk, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Nothing's wrong with you.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was so much wrong with me, but thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Thank you for pointing all that out. Yeah, now I'm exhausted and depressed and
exactly. I'm older than I was yesterday, and it just keeps getting worse every day. I don't know what to do.
So one thing I thought was really cool, you were talking about the perfect practice, and I love that. I just would change one word there, and I would say best practice. And the reason for best is because it's not going to be perfect on the scale of all things, which is what people think of as perfect is unachievable, but it's going to be the best fit for you, which will then be your perfect practice.
Yeah. The only downside to that is there's no alliteration with best practice. Perfect practice has the alliteration, but
it does. It's true.
No, the best is good. And I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying that for them where they are now, it's the last few years that their kids are in high school. It's like the last 3 years for their youngest and the last year for their oldest. And she was saying that, right now, practice has to comply with her desire to see her kids before they leave right now. And that's a season. But then you think when both kids go to college or go away or start whatever, she can open up the morning. She doesn't have to take anybody to school, or she can work right now. She doesn't work past 3:00 because she's, making sure she's around after school and whatnot. Although I'm sure her teenage kids are like, Mom, why didn't you come home at 7:00 anymore? It was so much easier, But that, and that's another point there is best practice is also like for where you're at. Maybe you have a sick relative or sick spouse and it fits for that. Maybe you do more consulting than patient care now. And for you right now, that's great. But I think one of the great things about healthcare jobs in general is you don't ever have to stop. It's not like a football player where it's like, listen, there's no 55-year-old NFL players. It's not going to be it.
I love that. And sorry, I was going to say, I have a client switching to Jane right now. And so best for her right now is to slow her patient flow down a smidge while she adapts to Jane and then ramp back up. So that's just like you said, it's in the moment. Sure. I love that you added that in because it is about what's happening in your life. Maybe right now you need a few more vacations. It's okay to take those.
Right. Yeah. I have a friend, he practiced in Palm Springs, and Palm Springs is a seasonal that, a third of his patients, maybe more, 40% leave during the summer, or they're snowbirds, right? And so they're back up in Canada or the northern states. And so his winter practice is very different than his summer. Summer is like limited hours, closes a couple days. And it's the age demographics much younger in the summer because the old folks who are retired have the ability to leave, have left. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the best practice for you. And so he doesn't take many vacations in the winter, but instead takes a lot in the summer because it's just, aligns with his financial model as well.
Yeah. And giving yourself permission and grace to make those changes and not feel bad about them, I think is how you get there.
Right. And with vacations too, it's always funny. If you're like, oh yeah, we're planning a cruise, everybody is excited for you. But if you, if you take a cruise and you didn't tell your patients, like, where's Dr. Wendling? Why isn't she here? It's like, but if not, they're like, bring me something. I want to see take pictures at the ruins or whatever. And you're like, oh, it's funny how phrasing can do that. I was going to say, when you see providers that are kind of, off base, what are some of the things or some of the ways you remind them of what they were trying to build? I think it's so, we dedicate our lives to this. If you're a clinic owner, you're doing so many hours of patient care. And then on top of that, a second job of running the clinic and training the staff and working with people, credentialing and, billing, all these crazy things. On top of that, it's almost like 2 jobs at least. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm also trying to be a human and, for me, a husband and a father and walk my dog every once in a while because she kind of likes that. But what do you see kind of helps people remember what their best practice is?
So I always start with what your vision is. And I like to start because people have a really hard time with their vision, right? Because people are limiting themselves from here. How do I get to there before they allow themselves to envision something? They have to figure out the how.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier too, like there's also that embarrassment, right? Like the vision that they share with their coach, Michelle, is probably bigger than what they're willing to share, like their wife or with their, grandparents, like, because you don't want to state out loud, oh, I want to have 7 clinics and, 100 people working for me. It's like, oh, honey, do you really need that? Whereas for you, you're like, cool, like, where are we now? Let's
go zero. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, so I usually start, and this comes from my coaches. I've been being coached for years and years and years, life coaching, not business coaching, but same idea. And one of the things they asked me is, I'm Santa Claus, and I'm going to wave my magic Santa Claus wand, if Santa Claus had a wand. Maybe it's Gandalf, I'm not sure. But I'm going to wave my wand and you can have anything you want. Let's talk about that rather than taking what you have now and making it into what you want, because they can't make that leap. They can't, because they're like, but this, but that, but this, but that. And so by giving them this is a clean slate, what do you really want? Then I can help them build a bridge to get there, and they can help themselves build a bridge to get there. But I think it's the lack of even seeing the options that is the issue. So starting there, I think, is to answer your question, is get that clarity first. What do you really want? If money was not an option, object was not an issue, if time was not an issue, what do you really want? And you'd be amazed at the emotional release that comes from that. Because when you allow yourself to actually dream, like I get goosebumps, you allow yourself to actually dream and actually vision that, give yourself permission to feel that, and it just blows your mind. And the emotion comes, and then you've got the right answers.
Imagine a practice where patient engagement is seamless and unified. With trust-driven care, connect with patients across text, email, social media, and Google Business Chat, all on autopilot. Empower your team to step in effortlessly and engage in real time from anywhere. Say goodbye to multiple software and hello to a simplified practice and life. Trust-driven care is the all-in-one solution to save time, boost revenue, and build patient loyalty. Book your demo today and watch your schedule start to fill up. Now, back to the show.
Have you ever done, since you've been in so much coaching, have you ever done I've only heard it as the treehouse trick?
No, I love this.
We'll do a little role play here for people listening. So sometimes there's people in your life that when you tell them your dream, they like want to put a wet blanket on and tamp it down. And then there's other people, and you'll know you're on the right rooms, are like, right on, man. What else?
What else?
So we'll play this. I want you to tell me, Michelle, that you want to build a treehouse. Okay. And I want everybody listening to hear what Michelle's dream treehouse becomes. I'm going to try and do this. I usually do this in person. It's the first time I've ever done it like on a podcast, but let's just try this crazy idea. So go ahead, Michelle.
I love it. Josh, I really want to build a treehouse.
Oh, and
I want it to have connections to other trees in the area.
Wow. And what else?
And I want it to have an ocean view. And I want to always have wild horses running underneath my treehouse every single morning when I'm sipping my coffee.
And what else?
And I want to see the sunrise and the sunset from my treehouse.
Awesome. And?
I love this. I'm like getting goosebumps. Like I'm going to start crying. Like this, it like opens up all the opportunities. I love this. And I need a pool, and I want all my friends to come and all the things. Yeah.
All right. So now let's try it. Let's try it a different way. You ready? Same start. You're going to start the same way. I'm just going to change my language just a touch, and let's see what it turns into.
Josh, I really want to build a tree house.
But
that's just not even in my Rolodex, the word but. My Rolodex. But I don't have any money.
But
I really want it, but there's no way I could build it as big as I want.
But
that's so uncomfortable.
It is. It just kills the conversation, right? You have no energy, right? You can't even dream anymore. And so I love doing it because when you think about your practice, or you think about who you want to treat, it's like, I want to treat athletes and I'm going to have like cryotherapy, because I got such a big difference, blah, blah, and lasers. I definitely want lasers for acute pain. Cool. And we got to have weights. We got to have, the gym in the back. Okay. And it's,
I love
when it all is like, and, it's only a 3-letter word, but it's so different than but just kills it and sucks out the energy. So one of my coaches took me through that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so fun. Yeah. And it just and I was just blown away that when you say but 1 or 2 times, that's all it takes, and it's cut
over.
So good for the ends.
Or the word or. Making someone select between 2 things, because they're like, well, I'd either like to treat athletes or I'd like to have a family practice. Well, why isn't that and? And they're like, what? It could be and? Oh, it can be and. You can have and. Replace it or with and.
Specialize in athletic families, like.
Yes. I mean,
Laird Hamilton and Gabrielle Reese, they're both athletes. They're married. They have kids.
exactly. Exactly. See, perfect example. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and there's no reason why you can't treat both and have specialties in both and have tools for both and have even branding for both.
Sure.
It's an and. It's a thing. Oh, I'd either like to grow my practice or be with my family.
Yeah.
What about and? So,
right.
I love that.
Why do they become exclusive? Yeah. That same coach also told me the other thing that'll kill a conversation is why. So if you say, I want to build a treehouse, and it's like, why? I'm like, yeah, it's probably a dumb idea. I won't.
Right. It immediately stops. So the why, I was also taught the why. I wonder if we had the same coach. That'd be funny. But the why is always a killer unless you're looking for your why. And then your why becomes an energetic motivator. So the word why isn't always bad, but when you're asking why for someone's reasoning for action or behavior, then it's very uncomfortable. It's very ick. It kills the energy. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah. It's so funny. Just those subtleties can totally do it, and
makes all the difference.
Going back to when we were talking earlier about patient communication, there's good research out there. If you let a patient, if you just say some open-ended question like, tell me what's going on or how can I help? And you just shut up, how long do you think they'll talk for? How long do you think they'll tell you about their chief complaint?
Some people, 0 amount of time. And some people, it'll be super, super short.
Yeah. And the research says they'll tell you, they'll talk for 92 seconds if you just let them go.
Be super short.
And they'll run out of steam. But that same researcher then looked at, that's weird because we don't see a lot of, 90-second interactions. How long do you think on average it takes for a physician to interrupt their patient?
3 seconds.
11 seconds.
Oh, God.
Yeah, 11 seconds. But the number one complaint in all of the research around communication is no one listened to me. I didn't feel heard. Nobody ever stopped to actually pay attention, right? And it's like, if you're willing to invest 92 seconds into the front end of every patient interaction, guess what you won't hear anymore, right? And if you look at practices, I'm sure you have so many clients, you look at practices that just list their patients and you look at their Google reviews, it's a amazing night and day difference. Yeah. Like, oh, she actually cares about you. She actually listens to you. It's not the same cookie cutter stuff. It's like, yeah, you could invest 92 seconds. But if you tell me you have back pain and you're like, oh, well, my back kind of hurts. Well, is it numb? Is it tingly? Is it burning? Like, I just killed it, right? That's
killed it.
I just killed it.
Well, and in those 92 seconds, they're telling you all the things they want to hear back from you in order to feel heard and in order to be fixed. It's like magic. 92 seconds. They'll tell you everything you need to know to be the best doctor for this patient.
Yeah. And secret trick for the listeners. If you take something out of their first interaction, this will give you customer service scores up the wazoo, like patient satisfaction scores. Takes a little bit of trickery here, but take something that they stated in that first visit that is not on any piece of paper. They didn't fill out so they filled out their name, their birthday, their, where's the pain, blah, blah. But if they happen to mention they have a dog named Rover, and you send that back to them in a message like, hey, Michelle, I just want to check in on you. By the way, give Rover a scratch for me. They are blown away. Yeah. But the trick is it can't be anything written down. So if you're like, oh, we love working with patients of Dr. Harris, and you're like, oh, I filled that information out. But if it's something they didn't, or how was lunch with your sister? I know you said you were going to, go do that. Yeah. That stuff will just blow their mind and build such a better relationship with that patient, which as a consultant, I'm sure the lifetime value is doubled of that patient, right?
Easy. And they'll get better results because they're going to release serotonin and dopamine every time they think about you rather than cortisol.
Yeah.
Which is instant healing.
Right. And so you want better results, a patient that sticks around longer, more money, and short of 6-pack abs. That's the only thing I don't think we can promise, but more money and better feeling around you. We'll take that, right?
Yeah. How about more fun going to work? How about that?
There you go.
How about that?
Well, since you brought that up, let's talk about that. So for those who, share their dream with you, can you tell us any trends you notice of people that really are close to their dream in how they I don't want to say enjoy, maybe enjoy, are fulfilled. The work they do seems to not tire them out. In fact, it like adds energy to their system. I notice. You notice this too. You're kind of those listeners. She's nodding her head. So tell me what you've observed there.
Well, what I notice is when people start doing the things they enjoy more rather than the obligations that they have to do, it powers them to do the next thing. You know, the old adage is get stuff out of the way that you don't want to do is so wrong. It's so wrong. You do not get stuff out of the way that you have to. Instead, you do the things you enjoy, which then empower you to then do the next cool thing. And then you'll have plenty of energy to do that crap or delegate it out. Hint, hint. But there's plenty of energy for that. And the thing I noticed first is when someone clears their head with their vision, their energy instantly shifts because they start seeing it's possible. Same thing you see with your patients. It's so much fun. When they first hear that it's possible to heal from this blown disc, you see their energy get lighter, right? They actually light up around the center of their forehead, the pineal gland, like they light up, they get excited, right? When they get excited like that, it opens up all these possibilities to healing, but it also gives them the energy to take care of the things they need to take care of. Same thing happens in your office, right? As soon as you see those opportunities and take one or two small actions, doesn't have to be like, and I totally changed my whole schedule, right? Or I totally changed how I treat. Just a little change. And the very first thing that changes with all clients, you see this all the time too, is their energy. And when their energy shifts, now they can be empowered to do the next change, which is so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I will tell you, you're so right. And I can remember an experience in my own life where this was the case. So it was about 6 months into practice. We had just opened and set up our hours to be like, I think it was 8 to 6. It might have been 8 to 5, but I think it was 8 to 6 Monday through Friday. Because those are normal business hours, where you're taking an hour or two off for lunch in the middle there. Anyways, for like the first 3 months, we had so many cancellations, and I would have this horrible feeling going home every week because we'd have a ton of cancellations. When we just kind of analyze the numbers, if you were to guess, where do you think most of those cancellations were occurring? They were on a certain day at a certain time.
Friday afternoons.
Damn right, sister. Since Friday afternoons were something like 60% of all of our cancellations, right? And everybody promised, oh, I'll be there, and everybody canceled. Well, the effect to me was I was ending my week with a shocking number of cancellations that had exponentially grown over the day, right? And we're just like, we finally were like, why are we doing this? So then we decided to cut our hours from 8 to 6 to 8 to, I think, 1, or the last patient was like at 12:30, which got us out at 1. And I remember it completely changed the energy on Friday, because Friday was like, hey, man, let's get in. We're not going to take lunch. So let's get it done. Blah, blah, blah. Feeling good. Way fewer cancellations, way more energy in the office. And it was like almost like the autonomy of when I chose to not see patients in the afternoon, it was mine, my decision, my energy, my why. But when they decided not to come on Friday afternoons, it was totally different, right? When I was being ignored or whatever, I felt like...
Yeah, feel like you were unwanted, unimportant, all the things.
Right.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was that when you look at it, the density that we were able to fill almost every spot Friday morning, whereas when we had Friday afternoon open, there was more Swiss cheese. So we were making probably better money. It was a whole lot more fun. Our clients were responding better. They were like, oh, yeah, I'm out of here. And we would even get the last hour or two would be people be like, yeah, man, I just closed up the office. This is my last thing of the day. And then I'm done. I'm going out for the weekend or whatever. And it was just like the empowerment I felt of like, oh yeah, you can set your own schedule and it doesn't have to comply with anybody's. It can be your own, was just like,
yep,
mind-blowing, total situational change.
I had a saying in my office that was, I change my schedule more than people change underwear. Because I scheduled based on what my life was. So if I had a really awesome workout class come up Thursday evenings, well, I was going to close early so I could go to that.
Yeah.
And our income went up and up and up and up every time. I see that with clients all the time. As soon as you pick your schedule, your income grows, not decreases. You don't have to be available 24/7. And to your point, it was because you made the choice that then changes the energy. It's so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's funny, like I hear that so much from entrepreneurs. It's not just healthcare, the schedule thing, but like, you know, I have a friend who sells life insurance and he decided he's only going to sell on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Mondays and Wednesdays, he said, you know, half of the Mondays are, Memorial Day, you got Labor Day, you got the Monday after this, the Monday after that. And he's like, those are always the days that get canceled. So he's like, why do that? Just when you're there, do kind of the trivial office work, but not client meetings. And then Fridays, he said that a lot of his clients are like, yeah, I don't want to finish the week with a meeting about insurance or, whatever. So move on. But they do awesome, and he can really focus on that energy during the week. And he said everybody responds. Clients are much more likely to buy. They're buying bigger packages. They're doing all this stuff, and it's just like, why not take advantage of that? And it's not, I hope everybody listening knows. Do you know what hours your doctors work? You just call and get an appointment. You don't know if they're there on Tuesdays or whatever. Do you care? Like, surgeons like, oh, I do surgeries on Tuesday. Okay, cool. That's doesn't affect me at all.
Right. And that's what I always told people is your patients have no idea if you're on vacation, if you're there, if you're doing a soup kitchen. They don't know what else you're doing. They just know that's not an available appointment, and they're fine with it. Every time I changed my hours, they were like, okay, I'll take Friday afternoons then. Okay, I'll take Wednesday urgent. Okay. I mean,
right.
The assumption that you always have to make in your office is that patients want to be there. Nobody's holding a gun to their head saying they have to come.
Sure.
They want to be there. So if you open up an opportunity for them to be there, they'll be there.
Right. And they want to be there with you. Like, I mean, you're the attraction. So it's like, oh, well, Michelle's now working 5 p.m. to 8. And it's like, okay, I'll come at 7:30.
That's right. Whatever it takes, I'll be there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's so funny. I shared the story with a couple people, but I live in Las Vegas, and there's this great spin instructor, and it just goes to your thing. This great spin instructor at our local gym, and for like 3 years, he had the most popular spin class, and it was at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. Now, this is the perfect market match with your product. Spin was super popular at the time. So this was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. He was an amazing instructor. And what he discovered was, so in Las Vegas, a lot of people work like 2 to 10 because that's when people check into hotels, swing shift. And if you get out, they work like 2 to midnight, right? Well, if you get off at midnight and then you go to employee parking to get your car, it's now 12:15, 12:20. Then you drive to the gym, but you smell like smoke. You're in your work outfit and stuff. So then you change, maybe even shower. Now 12:50. What time would you want to go to spin class? 1 a.m. And if it's just like going to the gym after work, if you finish at 5, but these people all just finish at midnight, right? And then if you're like, hey, well, I'm at the gym, I want to stay in shape. Who do you want to go to? You want to go to a really fun, amazing class, right? So to your point about like, they don't care. They just will come whenever. All these people, the most popular class in the entire gym was people coming in the middle of the night, quote unquote, to see this amazing spin instructor. And it got to a point where they only had like 45 bikes in the room and you had to reserve them. And on average, the classes were filling up. Bikes would be reserved like 24 hours in advance. For that single class, they were reserved like a week in advance. People were planning their week around whether or not they can get a bike. And I'm like, what a perfect picture of how it can be. Now you gotta deliver the goods. Like you can't, but the goods in so much of healthcare, and especially one-on-one healthcare, is you. It's you. Like, are you energetic? Are you smiling? Are you having a good time? Or are you completely apathetic and just burn and churn?
So are you saying that if a doc's amazing and the patients want to come, that the patient will actually plan around the doctor's schedule, Josh? Wow.
As I hope you're sitting down, Michelle. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh. Thank goodness. I do have a stand-up desk, but I'm sitting right now. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's that way. Like, if you were, I don't know, it's just so funny that we make these assumptions in life. I think Steve Jobs said, like one of the most powerful things in life is when you look around and realize like all these walls were made up,
Yeah.
they're totally made up. And I think about it like if you ever see cops drive for an emergency, all of a sudden the painted lines on the road don't apply. And then you think, well, why do they apply anywhere? Like, what are the painted lines in your own profession that are holding you to do something or not do something? Like, is chiropractic only the act of putting your hands on somebody? Is that the only version of chiropractic? Could there be I mean, I remember getting into chiropractic, I was doing ART, and people were like, oh, you shouldn't do soft tissue, you shouldn't work on the muscles. And I was like, says who? Like, what? So why not? If that's what I want to do, like, so what? Like, of course I can. You want to work with pediatrics? You want to work with, pregnant women only? You can. And what if you want to do it through telehealth? You don't even put your hands on. Okay, cool. Like they're all painted lines. They're not, and you can drive right over them.
I love that. Yeah. I actually have an office that only sees pregnant women through 6 months after they give birth, and they stop seeing them. They refer them to another doctor. And people are like, oh my gosh, why would you ever do that? It's like, well, because that's her favorite thing. That's her bag. That's what she's really good at. It's her specialty. And she has a ridiculously successful office doing just that. And of course, refers them to other wellness care providers who take care of them. But you're right. The world is your oyster, and the lines they're artificial. All the boundaries are fake.
I just picture that woman going, well, we had an old kid in here that is like 1. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah, it's our geriatric child.
Once they start walking, get them out of here.
Right. Yeah. Well, Michelle, as we kind of wrap this up, number one, go ahead and share like how people can get a hold of you if they kind of like your vibe and are interested in coaching.
Sure. I mean, they can go to bethebestchiropractor.com, and that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. My email is on there. You can actually schedule an appointment right on my calendar through there. So that's the thing. And then I have thousands of videos as well all over the place. So once you get to Be the Best Chiropractor, you can go to the do-it-yourself tools, and it'll take you to my Patreon page and all the things. Makes it easy for you.
Awesome. That's so cool. Yeah. See, chiropractors aren't allowed to use Patreon, Michelle. Don't you know that?
Oh, I know. I'm totally.
That's only for podcasters. Oh God. Yeah. It's that's only if you're a writer. It's so funny, Yeah. Well, I appreciate the time, and I always appreciate your energy and your insight. I really hope people heard this, and I think we covered a lot of ground, but man, I just hope that everybody sees that that idea of like the boundaries, that's what also has led to huge improvements in healthcare. Huge improvements, because people are just like, why do we treat it that way? Talking about kids, I'm sure you're either your mom or your grandmother remembers the days of like, oh, we should fully anesthetize moms when they're delivering. That makes perfect sense. And somebody who was like, why?
Right.
Why not challenge that? And it's like, oh, what? You can't do that. It's like
a robot that can do all of the surgery. Like, what? Yeah. That's so crazy. Like, no, they can do it, and they can do it better.
Right. Yeah. All right, Michelle. Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much for the time today. And everybody listening, check out Michelle's website. And if you're not a chiropractor, check out her videos anyways, because she's got energy and she understands the game that we're all getting ourselves in. But besides that, make sure you're close to your goals and that vision you have. And healthcare will be a whole lot better. Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trust Driven Insights, brought to you by Trust Driven Care. Imagine a world where all your patient communication is in one place, seamless, effortless, and on autopilot. That's the power of Trust Driven Care. If you're ready to streamline your practice, check out trustdrivencare.com and see what's possible. Trust Driven Insights, real conversations, smarter care, stronger business.